In any event that we plan to organize, less burden if we have partnership with someone else.
Bar has been affected a lot with flooding, and we have been
and coordinator of for the United Nations, Excellencies, members of the diplomatic corps, honorable ministers. I do acknowledge the Minister for Health and the assistant ministers, senior government officials, the permanent secretaries, Commissioner Western Division, representatives of non-government and civil society organizations, friends and stakeholders. For disaster management, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, Isambul Winaka, and a very good morning to you all. We have just over 1 week to go before the start of the cyclone season in our hemisphere. We all know what that means for Fiji. Since 2010, 9 cyclones have struck our islands, leveling homes, taking lives, and flooding arable land. Total damage and loss recorded at 2.42 billion, which represents 1.25% of total gross domestic product of the country from the years 2010 to 2020. The housing sector has sustained the most damages, totaling 875 million, followed by the education sector at 789 million, and the agriculture sector with 677 million Fijian dollars respectively. Due to the intensifying impacts of climate change, we can only expect these storms to become more severe. So we must be prepared. That is what this week is all about. The launch of the National Disaster Awareness Week is our solemn reminder of the duty of care we hold to ourselves and to our communities. It is our opportunity to reflect on the lessons of past tragedies and prepare our nation for the future storms brewing beyond the horizon. From 2007 to 2019, a total of 64 deaths were recorded that were cyclone related. Of that, 26 were drowning related incidents. Of the 26, 17 are drowning victims reported from the Western Division. These numbers are alarming, and we need to work together to ensure the numbers don't rise. Drowning is well within our control to avoid. Life is precious, as it doesn't come twice. Don't risk your life or your families by crossing any flooded river or walkway, let alone please refrain from swimming in these flooded areas. Globally, there's a sharp increase in the number of recorded disaster events by comparison with the previous 20 years. In the period 2000 to 2019, there were 7,348 major recorded disaster events claiming 1.23 million lives, affecting 4.2 billion people, resulting in approximately US $2.97 trillion in global economic losses. These disasters are directly related to a rise in climate change, which includes extreme weather events that we here at home are now experiencing. Climate change is a truly global crisis, and Fijians are bracing for climate-fueled disasters alongside our fellow global citizens in developed and developing countries alike. And make no mistake, the eyes of the world are on Fiji. As we make those preparations, we should know that we are not alone. Many have seen the example we have set in recent years in responding to national disasters. Our officials are battle-tested. Our people are well-informed. Our response systems are world-class. But when it comes to saving lives, we cannot rest. There is always more that we can do. The theme for the 2020 National Disaster Awareness Week is "It's all about governance," which is certainly true. The technical definition of governance is the exercise of political, economic, and administrative authority in the management of a country's affairs at all levels. Basically, good governance means good leadership, and that starts from the very top. We are blessed to have a Prime Minister who knows how to lead a nation through even the most devastating of disasters. He has proved that time and again, but he knows, and we know, that good leadership cannot end at the doors of the Prime Minister's office. We must build a culture of risk reduction which extends through all levels of society, within communities, the private sector, civil and non-government organizations, and across every ministry, agencies, and departments in government. To put it simply, everyone, everywhere, should have a working knowledge of what to do before, during, and after a disaster strikes. Engagement at the community level is equally important. That is why the National Disaster Management Office, together with our partners, have conducted more than 300 trainings on community-based disaster risk reduction. Building community resilience at grassroots level is important for government, and for that reason, we are now standardizing the community-based DRR training manual to ensure we speak the same language when it comes to disasters. Fijian communities are on the front lines of the rising seas and stronger storms. The members of these communities have not read about disasters in a textbook or on some website. They have learned from experience. And you would be amazed the sort of knowledge and capacity that exists at the community level. Those who have lived through multiple cyclones and who contend daily with the rising seas often has much to teach, as they have to learn about disaster risk management. We cannot let their invaluable knowledge go to waste. That is why our community-based training empowers community members to take ownership over the mitigation of disaster risks. Having the National Disaster Awareness Week in Bar this year is extra special, given your history in flooding, which backdates to 1892. But since 2009 to 2018, a total of 5 major flooding events has occurred, which resulted in high cost of damages to both infrastructure and livelihood. For this reason, it is important to mitigate our risks and invest in disaster preparedness. And I wish to acknowledge the management who decided to bring the National Disaster Awareness Week event here to Mba. And I also wish to acknowledge, I can see sitting amongst the crowd this morning is the former Commissioner Weston. and also the former Assistant Minister for Disaster Management and Rural Development, Mr. Seruiratu. He is one that fully understands and knows the experiences that the Western Division went through during those years that I mentioned, particularly from 2009 to 2018. I remember that he was Commissioner Western when we had Cyclone Evans in 2012. That's when we had the big landslide in Tukuraki. That's when we lost Motor Bridge. The devastation was huge throughout the Western Division, from Raki to Sinatoka. We have to bring in people, even from the Central and Eastern Division, to complement the workforce here in the Western Division, because the Western Division was overwhelmed. But I wish to acknowledge Mr. Dawaki for his leadership during those trying times. And of course, I still remember the Easter weekend of 2018, when Mbao was caught by surprise. It was beyond anybody's expectation. The flooding that happened in Mbao in 2018, and this is one of the reasons why we have decided to bring the National Disaster Awareness Week to Mbao. And this is not only about Mbao, but this is for the whole of the Western Division. We need to prepare and prepare well. Those of you that have been in the ministry for quite a while, you know the shift that we took way back in 2011, shifting from a culture of reaction to a culture of prevention. If we prepare well, we can minimize the risks, we can minimize the costs, we can minimize the losses. Most of the losses are unnecessary. If we prepare well, we should be able to cope well too. And I hope that we will make the most of the events and the activities organized for this Awareness Week that will be held in Mbao over the next few days. Ladies and gentlemen, Fiji is helping flip the narrative around working with vulnerable communities. Too often such work is portrayed as a one-way effort, with vulnerable communities being the only ones who benefit. But good governance recognizes the risk, that risk management is a two-way exchange. It recognizes that the blend of local knowledge and international expertise achieves the highest possible level of resilience. Good governance promotes the need to pull resources together so that our vulnerable or poor communities are not marginalized. It leaves no room to leave anyone behind. Instead, it ensures that we are all held accountable to each other. The central tenet of good governance is the principle of ensuring that the voices of the poorest and the most vulnerable are heard in decision making. Our Honorable Prime Minister put forward that vision when he launched the National Disaster Risk Reduction Policy of 2018 to 2030. The onus is on us as individuals, as communities, as organizations to define and outline our vulnerabilities. We urge you to work with government. Our ears are open to the realities and challenges that you face. We want you to know where we can work together to achieve the most good. We want to understand how our assistance is helping, and we want to learn where it is falling short. Together, we can build a governance structure that serves us all. Let's not forget what is at stake here. Building resilience is a matter of life or death for Fiji. And it is the only way we remain on course towards any of these sustainable development goals. We cannot make progress as a country if everything we build is wiped away every time a disaster strikes. We cannot free our people from poverty. We cannot uproot inequality. We cannot build a digitally driven society, nor can we uphold our food security if our people live under constant threat from devastating disasters. That's just the hard truth. But that will not be our future. We will build communities that are prepared for even the most severe disasters. We will maintain our pace of development, even in the face of a changing climate. We will save lives. We will work with our people. We will use their knowledge and combine it with the best information and technology the world can give us. And we will build a resilient Fiji. That work begins with good governance. I assure you, your government, through the Ministry of Rural Development and the National Disaster Management Office, is committed to safeguarding Fijian lives and Fijian progress. I look forward to getting this week underway. With those few words, I now officially open the National Disaster Awareness Week. Nasa Walewu, thank you. Thank you.
This one very useful for our people in some rural areas, in some other islands. Very useful for them. And by this